Hey there guys and gals, welcome back to Back Pocket Game Reviews, and today we're going to talk a little bit about The Division 2. So obviously those of you who have kind of followed me for a while know that I wasn't super hyped originally for The Division 2. It was a game I kind of remained relatively reserved about, especially when they showed it off at E3. Ubisoft showed off the original Division at E3. It got a lot of hype behind it. It never wound up really fully seeing the full potential that it could have been. When they showed off the original Division at E3, the game that wound up releasing was not quite the same game that they showed off at E3, which is kind of a common thing for Ubisoft back in the day, seeing that this is in the whole Watch Dogs time period. But when The Division did come out, it did set new IP records for Ubisoft, so it was a huge seller for them. And Ubisoft games, especially when it comes to multiplayer or online games, tend to evolve over their lifetime and tend to really see their full potential towards the end of the first year going into the second year, and that's typically when they tend to have it all fixed, all of the big bugs ironed out. So what changed my mind? When did I become excited about The Division? I became pretty excited about it when they did the open and closed betas. I actually pre-ordered the game at GameStop just to get into the closed beta, also resulting in me receiving a call from GameStop the day before launch asking if I would be attending the midnight release for the game, which I had to inform them that I had already bought the game digitally and I would be canceling my pre-order. Now, with that being said, supposedly The Division 2 is not really selling all that well, at least according to everyone who has seemingly wanted to do this video. But the topic of that is also kind of odd because it's based on UK retail sales only, and they're saying that sales are only 20% of that of the original Division. But you also got to keep in mind there are a lot of games now that are starting to see a lot more sales digitally. I do understand that it's probably not selling quite as well as the original Division, just because I have my Xbox Live Gamertag and my PSN all linked in my description box for you guys. I have a couple hundred people on my friends list for both of those platforms, and if I sign on to either one of them at any given time, there's usually only about 5 people playing the game, which is sad because it is a really fun game. I'm currently playing it on Xbox with Sabre Prime and the Sarcastic Wolf. And obviously we started a clan. We're trying to get all that stuff grinded out. But unfortunately, there's just not a lot of people to invite. Even when you go into the dark zone, it doesn't feel quite as populated as it should. So the main question here is, does this game deserve this kind of animosity? And personally, in my opinion, the overall answer is no. When you look at the overall gameplay that is given here, the gameplay is insanely enjoyable. It is a cover-based shooter, and it's a shooter-looter. What that means is you are literally just constantly grinding for loot. Think like Diablo or Borderlands, where it's constantly new loot. Constant loot drops. And they have an area called the Dark Zone, which is a PvP area. And this is like the one area that I feel this is one of the most interesting ways to do PvP. Essentially, it's a shared world area, and there's different things you can do in the world. There's different enemies running around, and you can go do all this stuff and grind it out. Eventually, they drop loot that is contaminated in these areas. So once you have a certain amount of contaminated loot, you have to shoot off a flare in a certain area to call in an extraction helicopter. And then once that starts, you're going to have some enemies try to take that point, some NPCs, and you have to hold them off. But not only that, it notifies everyone in that dark zone, hey, these people are extracting loot. So essentially it paints you as a giant target, and people for any reason can turn on you and attempt to kill you. The dark zone is that one spot where you don't really want to trust anyone. I mean, if someone just runs into you running through the world, they can decide to turn on you and kill you there. It's just when you're extracting loot, people know you're clearly getting something good out. Like, that's the whole reason why you called them in. So then you have to hold this area until it cools down, or until the countdown timer. Then the helicopter will drop in a rope. You attach your loop to the rope, and then you have to hold it for about another 50 seconds until the helicopter pulls off. Because if they kill you or down you while the helicopter only has the rope dropped, they can actually cut your loot down from the rope. And you can tell if people are carrying around extractable items, which usually tend to be the best items in the Dark Zone, because they have an extra bag that has a biohazard symbol clipped to their backpack. So I do find that to be an extremely interesting way to do PvP. And again, the mechanics, the overall feel of the guns, the sounds that the guns make, the sounds the explosions make, even the feedback you get from shooting the guns feels very, very rewarding. It makes it feel fun to play. But I also like cover-based mechanic shooters, so it shouldn't be shocking that I enjoy that as well, seeing as that I'm a huge Gears of War fan. They did change a lot of things about the enemies. So when we talk about the overall changes to the core gameplay, the basic enemies take typically a couple of bullets to down as long as you're placing them relatively well. And then the bigger enemies, like the purple bars and yellow bars, are still pretty much bullet sponges. So that hasn't really changed too much from the first one. However, now these bullet sponges have these armor icons. When the armor icon breaks, you usually get some visual cue that they now have dropped armor. Like, there's some that carry turrets, and if you break off their arm armor, they might stumble to the side that the arm armor broke on, or they may even drop to the ground into a crouch position. It all kind of just depends on the bad guy. But it breaks up the monotony of just constantly shooting into this bullet sponge. So, and I personally have been really enjoying this game, as you can probably tell. But the story is probably the thing that takes a little bit of a backseat. It's not a bad story. It's just the story isn't the main thing here. The main thing is being able to go through this with friends and being able to have that replayability. So the story's good. It's just sort of like a Destiny, though, where that story is never going to be the full-out main spectacle of this game, but it's also not supposed to be the main spectacle of these types of games. It's something that's enjoyable enough, but not incapable of a friend dropping out and rejoining you and missing a piece and feeling drastically like they missed something. Most of them are segmented off and different stories. Like, one of them's you have to go retrieve the U.S. Declaration of Independence out of a museum. They're just all kind of separated pieces. Not that they don't all go together. They all kind of have like their own little existence story-wise. So each mission is not really connected to the other missions. The only thing they are connected to is the specific settlement that you're trying to help out and develop, which there are different settlements, and as you complete the tasks for those settlements, you'll see visually things actually change in those settlements. Different utilities become available to you in that time. And I will say this game is definitely a game that is best played with others. That should have been kind of obviously an assumed thing, though. I again have, as I said, really enjoyed this game. Now, another big concern I think a lot of people have is how complete is it? So Ubisoft has already stated all year one DLC is free. You don't have to get the season pass. There is a season pass. It just gets you 7 days early access to the DLCs. So you don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. You can literally get all of that year one content for free. And Ubisoft probably will have a year two season pass. If you played any of their other online games like Rainbow Six Siege, they do continue support for their games for a very long time. And they tend to get the best gameplay over time out of their games. They're constantly tweaking, constantly balancing Siege. They constantly have new map updates. They constantly are changing stuff for different operators. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a similar route with the Division 2. And it is kind of sad because I feel like Destiny 2 was really the straw that broke the camel's back on the whole games as a service. A lot of people felt very burnt after Destiny 2. It just didn't live up to where people wanted. I do feel it feels more like a polished version of the first game. Like it's just what the first game figured out it could have been. And that's not a bad thing. The first game was still a lot of fun. It's just there were a lot of issues in the first game, and especially at launch. The first year of that game was extremely rough, which is the last time I played the first Division, was before the Taken King and all that stuff dropped for Destiny. So it is hard to see this game not doing well when it's released in such a complete form. I mean, there are very few bugs for what this game is, too, outside of the random me getting stuck on something in the environment. That's probably the worst one. They had a little issue with some of your skills would disappear in a matter of 15 seconds. Skills are like the turret that you carry around or the healing drone. You've got a bunch of different little power-ups that make it so you can helpfully contribute to your team either in a passive, a healer, all these different styles of fighting, just depending on how you want to utilize them. And obviously it's best if you're going to be playing with the same people regularly to kind of discuss with them what skills you guys should use, because obviously you don't want to have a whole bunch of people with the same skill. But there are some that are better for certain situations and better for solo and better for all these different types of situations. But the other big thing with the game is, and this is something that Ubisoft deserves at least some credit on, microtransactions aren't very in your face in this game. None of it ever feels like anything you have to buy. The store is kind of tucked in with where you buy, like where you get the rest of your shirts and everything. But it never really advertises or anything to you. There are some games that have had some relatively pushy microtransactions. This, you probably honestly won't even really notice much that they're there. And that's assuming you even really ever figure out where they are. You do earn a lot of the clothes just by playing the game. Like you'll get cash keys to unlock loot boxes that have different cosmetic skins in them that you can actually buy from the store. But there's also a lot of clothing options in the game that you can't get through the store and you have to unlock just by actually playing the game. There's weapon camos, sunglasses, hats, scarves. That's all you can buy. And emotes. Don't forget the emotes. Almost forgot them. I may have bought a couple emotes because I like emotes. But that's it. That's all you can get. Nothing that affects the actual gameplay of this game. Nothing that is going to be like, oh my god, this person was able to buy a weapon. Nope. No, you can go buy a t-shirt. If you want to dress up like a police officer, you can cosplay with your character. It's about it. And I will say this, Ubisoft, ever since they've had a little bit of a backlash over how some of the microtransactions in Siege were handled, they've been pretty straightforward with them in every other game. And I think that's probably been to their benefit, at least in my opinion. And I would say this game has turned out to be relatively everything that I wanted it to be. And I've had a lot of fun playing through it with Sabre and Wolf. And I don't have any regrets on this purchase. I feel it was very much so worth the $60. Everything as a whole feels very smooth and fun and enjoyable and rewarding to play. There's never a time where I'm like, oh man, I should have got something else. I should have waited. But I think we're also kind of in a weird spot where a lot of AAA games are coming under fire, and a lot of them are paying for it, or even a lot of the whole games as a service kind of model is starting to get a lot of backlash and hatred. And that's kind of going to make every game that does it suffer. Whether that game is a good game, whether that game releases as a complete game, they're all kind of lumped in together right now. But if you do like multiplayer games and you do like shooters and all that kind of stuff, I definitely would say at least check out a stream of Rainbow Six, or not Rainbow Six, of The Division 2. See if you like it. Just give it a fair chance. I mean, I would have recommended you participate in the beta, but that's kind of too late now. I'm sure, seeing as that it's Ubisoft, they'll probably do a free play weekend at some point in time, maybe towards 6 months to a year in. That is something Ubisoft has been kind of notorious to do to get people on board with their games, but this isn't like a For Honor situation where some people are really hyped about it and then it's just terrible and crooked. Actually, I think that was the game that really blew up microtransactions in Ubisoft's face, was For Honor. But this isn't like that. This is very straightforward, nothing game-breaking you can buy, and they're not going to feel very pushed on you. I mean, especially seeing as that they're giving you the first year of DLC for free. So, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments down below. I've also ran a poll, obviously, on YouTube here on my community tab about if people were excited for The Division or not. It's trending at over 60% saying no, they are not interested. Others are saying they're waiting for a sale. Others are saying they're waiting for payday. Some have already said they picked it up. But yeah, 60% is just saying nope, not interested. So I am curious to, if you are interested, why were you interested? If you're not interested, why were you not interested? I'm just kind of curious to where that all sits for everybody. But you can let me know down in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. Also, if you're new here, you can click the subscribe button, ding the little bell. I hear really manly men are only capable of dinging the bell, or really lady-like ladies. I don't think that works quite as much as the whole manly men thing. Just ding the bell. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you all soon, and I'll have plenty more content coming for you.
With time. Come to the theater and see for yourself.
Hey there, Agent.
Hostile control point detected. En route. Heavily armored hostiles detected.
Launching grenade!
Incoming hostiles detected. Hostile detected.
Stop them. Let's get out of here.
Supply room access unlocked.
I love.
Is that it? Everyone okay? We pulled together, that's why.
Sounds like one of those sleep machines.
Hey, Caulfield, this is Simmons. We're...
Group augmentation active. Group augmentation inactive.
Here you go. Best gear in the city. Come take a look.
Group augmentation activated. Group augmentation inactivated.
Hot showers now available every morning between 0700 and
augmentation active.
Everything is priced to move. What can I do for you?
Group augmentation inactive.
You want it? I've got it. It's that simple.
Oh, hi.
Group augmentation activated.
We are seeking artists, decorators, and interior designers for a very special restoration project. If you would like to get involved, there will be a meeting in room 17.
Good to see you. Oh, hey, look! It's that agent!
Group augmentation inactivated.
For society, please speak to our administrator.
Group augmentation active.
Hello, Agent. Pleasure to see you. I'm happy to have made a deal. I've got the biggest inventory in DC.